Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, in association with thelibertybeacon.com. And I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show.
Greetings, everybody. Today is Thursday, March 21st. I say that just because this show will drop Saturday. Let me look at the calendar because I'm not doing the math in my head since Saturday's only a couple days ahead. That would be, of course, the 23rd. It's too early in the morning today as I record this, so I guess I'm not fully awake yet. But I say that because a lot of times I may record a show actually a few weeks or more in advance, but this week I'm actually recording the show for the Saturday in the same week of the show. Not that that probably matters to anybody, but just, it is what it is. I've said it. It's out there now. Just a little behind the scenes of how things go around here. Sometimes I'm recording the week of, sometimes it may be several weeks in advance. Usually the specials drop months after the discussions with the guests as I spread those out, usually dropping 2 specials a month with a guest as the new format change. Every Saturday generally will remain monologue topic only, and occasional guests, yes, and moving the guests that I have on to midweek, mid-month, hopefully now 2 a month specials, like I just recently recorded with Bullseye the Clown. I decided this month, March, there will be 3 special drops. I just dropped yesterday, Wednesday, looking at the calendar again, March the 20th, an episode with Don Gallade where we discuss movies. And Rosemary Downer was the first March special that dropped. We discussed her books and her podcast, things like that. But let's get on with this show, right? Hopefully you haven't tuned out. Thank you for sticking with me through my early morning Thursday rambling. Today's show, if you're looking on behind the scenes, sneak peek, BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, YouTube, you see me shaking my notes. The topic is Tale of 2 National Guard deployments, New York and Texas. That kind of tells you all you need to know these days between left and right, Fascicrats and Republicans, and why we need a major red wave in November of 2024. I normally don't get directly partisan in these episodes. I try to remain generic, but I came right out there, indeed, directly partisan. And why? This episode should tell you why. I'm going into the why. The clear dichotomy between the left that coddles criminals and the right, and why crime is out of control despite a Jessica Tardlov on the 5 on Fox News claiming crime is down in blue cities. No, it's not. The prosecution of crimes and therefore convictions of crimes are down because they're just not prosecuting the criminals. these Soros-backed DAs and these leftists in charge of these blue areas refusing to prosecute criminals. But if you look at the police reports, there's crime statistics from a police report standpoint, you know crime is out of control. It's running rampant in the streets because the left, due to these no bail laws and supposed justice reforms, just let these criminals right back out on the streets to commit more crimes that they then aren't prosecuting. The other thing is, when they are prosecuting crimes, what they won't tell you on the left is that the DAs and the prosecutors, the leftists, are plea bargaining away the higher felony crimes to misdemeanor crime, which again then, with liberal activist judges, are allowing them back out to time served or probation. So they're right back out there again, committing more crimes. Now, how does the National Guard come into this? It's pretty simple. In Texas, which, like Kristi Noem of South Dakota governor, Ron DeSantis, I just called him Rick, Rick Scott. Ron DeSantis of Florida, like I said, it's early in the morning here. I don't do coffee, so I guess I should get some caffeine in me before I decide to record these. But hey, here we are. We're doing this. Ron DeSantis also has sent National Guard from his state, as is Kristi Noem, South Dakota, and some other states, to Texas to help the Texas National Guard to do what? To defend the border and actually uphold the law. That's not what leftists are doing. They're coddling the criminals. They're inviting illegals to run amok and invade us over the border. So Texas is trying to uphold law, whereas in New York, Governor Jokel, as I call her, and idiot Mayor Adams, oh, excuse me, I had to cough there. There is no cough button here in Zoom. Adams, because of DA Bragg, a Soros-backed DA, letting people right back out on the streets, crime running rampant. Governor Jokel, because it's an election year, has called the National Guard to be put into the New York State subway system. Are they doing anything really but standing around? Well, yes, they are. They are harassing law-abiding citizens. They aren't there to try to collect illegal guns or actually prevent crime, because Governor Jokel has ordered them into the subway without any arms. They can't even defend themselves, let alone really be expected to apprehend any criminals. What are they there doing? It's all a dog and pony show, a show of force in an election year, and they are harassing legal citizens checking bags. So a school kid going to school, now granted, yes, there are hoodlum kids and there could be a gun in a backpack, but these people who claim stop and frisk, which had an amount of supposed due process, a person looking suspicious to the police, acting suspiciously, they would then deem a potential threat and try to stop and frisk only those people to try to get illegal guns out of the subway and off the streets. That they thought, oh, that was horrendous. We can't let the police decide someone looks suspicious or someone who's known to be a criminal in the past, looking like they're trying to avoid interaction with police, suspicious behavior. Why? Because they're likely carrying a gun or a knife illegally to stop and frisk them. No, the National Guard is harassing all school-age kids with the backpacks, Granny with her fanny pack. We gotta disturb everybody checking all bags. Meanwhile, the criminal without a bag, with the gun tucked in his pants, front pants, is just walking onto the subway. My evidence for that is there was just a stabbing the other day on the New York subway while the National Guard was there to supposedly show force and lower crime, which, again, hypocrisy. The left claims there is no increase in crime, but Joko calls in the National Guard anyway. Now, do they actually do anything to reduce crime? Like actually prosecuting criminals to get them off the street? No change in that policy that would actually make a difference. No change in the no bail policy that would actually keep criminals locked up, that would actually make a difference. No change in the sanctuary city status, sanctuary state, New York State sanctuary status that would actually keep illegals, which by definition, they broke the law to come in here. They are criminals, therefore likely to potentially commit other criminal acts. No change in that policy that would actually matter and make a difference. No, don't do any of all that actually would make a difference. No, let's just throw the National Guard in there without their weapons, standing around harassing school kids with backpacks as a pretend part of the bread and circus. It's just part of the circus. This is just a Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, dog and pony show of force to pretend she's doing something in an election year. When crime is up, yet they claim it's down. The other thing is there was a shooting just the other day on the New York subway. I also don't have all the details on that because this is a recent event. So, crime is down, but yet there was a shooting. Now, I'm going to mention Daniel Penny in a minute. But first, the shooting, D.A. Bragg is not bringing charges against the shooter, claiming it was self-defense. Now, segue to Daniel Penny, who didn't shoot anybody, was engaged in self-defense also. Everybody on the subway car testifying says he was engaging in self-defense, protecting himself and others on the car from, I'm looking at my notes, Jordan Neely, who was clearly in a deranged mindset, threatening passengers. It turned out Jordan Neely didn't have a weapon, but the people on the subway car didn't know that. He was threatening them, stating in a rant, he's likely to go to jail. Why? You only go to jail if you commit a criminal act. So he clearly was in the mindset of going to commit criminal acts and threatening passengers. So Daniel Penny, a Marine sergeant, stepped in along with two other citizens who weren't charged in the incident, one of them a black man. Now, to you and me, the race of the people involved here matter not. But to the left, of course, and CNN and the MSNBCs and DA Bragg and Governor Jokel and Mayor Adams, they're trying to say, oh, Penny choked a black man to death. He didn't try to choke anybody to death. He was trying to restrain Jordan Neely, a black man, Penny happening to be white. But again, one of the two other people helping Penny restrain Neely was a black man. I'm sorry, I don't have his name. For some reason, again, because it's an inconvenient fact, they want to keep that out of the news. It's all about white guy Penny choked black man Neely on the subway, devoid of all the testimony of others on the subway. Penny was trying to restrain Neely, not kill him, restrain him till the police could get there. This isn't a Bernie Goetz situation, if you recall that. There, Bernard Goetz opened fired on 4 black kids on the subway. Now, he feared for his life also. He feared they were about to commit a crime, and he felt he was defending himself. But jury disagrees, obviously, and he shot 4 black kids. Penny didn't shoot anybody. But again, to that other shooting on the subway where no charges are being brought, amazing how we don't know anything about the races there. I bet it isn't something they can spin as a racial incident. So that guy who shot somebody in self-defense gets off. But Penny, who acted also in defense of self and others, is being charged with manslaughter. And I apologize. I realize I'm kind of jumping back and forth between these cases, but that's the whole point of this episode. The dichotomy of how the left is reacting to the situation in New York versus the National Guard deployment made to uphold and enforce law in Texas. Tale very different and very telling in this election year. So Penny was charged, and for those of you who will remember, they're kind of saying, like if you recall the movie Con Air, starring Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, whereas Nicolas Cage plays, I think he was a Navy SEAL, whatever, again, ex-military, and defending himself, his wife, and his child, man lands up killing a man and gets charged with murder. Now, Penny is charged with manslaughter, which other states, they have what they call negligent homicide. Manslaughter is kind of the same as that. They're not saying Penny intended to kill him, but it was a negligent death. It was, he went too far, causing death, therefore a manslaughter charge, and that trial is now set for October 8th. But again, the telling part is immediately they try to make it all about race. Look, Penny's a white guy, Neely's a black guy. Neely, the criminal, is black. So it had to be because he's black, not because he's a criminal threatening people on the subway. Now, I hope a jury will find Daniel Penny not guilty by way of self-defense, but of course, that remains to be seen. Now, I'm going to look down, if you could see, I'm behind the scenes at my notes to try to see if there's anything in here that I've missed. Now, again, the Daniel Penny situation versus the criminal stabbing that happened. I don't know if that guy that stabbed someone has been caught and charged or not. So the National Guard, here's a note that I haven't gotten to yet. The joke in Jokel's deployment of the National Guard being there to check bags rather than act as duly deputized police agents to arrest criminals are basically just TSA agents. They're there to harass people checking bags of law-abiding citizens. Meanwhile, that stabbing occurs, and I have no idea if that guy's been caught and charged. And then again, that other shooting where I think he's been identified, and DA Bragg announced there would be no charges. We all need to look into the differences between the Penny case and that case. And I'm sorry, I wish I had the guy's name. I don't. But those two cases, why the difference? Obviously, there's some difference there. They couldn't peddle trumped up race charges likely in that self-defense shooting case. So no charges are being brought, but yet they're trying to throw Penny under the train, not under the bus, subway. I know this is no laughing matter. This is no joking matter. I should not be joking like that. But again, if they were really there to do anything about crime, number one, Hochul would allow them to be there with their weapons so they could defend themselves against the armed criminals. But no, this is just a dog and pony show. Another side item is blue cities and counties, because this is the contrast between blue and red states. But the reality is, there really is no such thing as blue and red states. What it boils down to, really, is blue counties. These major urban centers run by Fascicrats, and usually means they also control the county those major cities are in. Now, there are also other blue counties that don't have a New York City, a San Francisco, blue county, even Dallas. I don't know the county, but I specifically mentioned Dallas here because the Dallas mayor, a black man, again, to you and me, the skin tone doesn't matter. What matters is the content of character. But since the left always makes everything about race, identity politics, the black mayor of Dallas switched from Fascicrats to Republican because, in part, this issue of the Democrats coddling criminals and refusing to protect citizens from illegal invaders coming across our border. So back to the point, though, that there really are only blue counties that then there are enough people in them to control states that we therefore call California or New York a blue state, but it isn't. There's really a whole lot of red area. If you look at a map, to use proper English, if you look at a map of the United States and the voting patterns by county, you will see clear majority of all the territory of the United States massive red color with all these blue enclave dots scattered all over that are high population centers. Well, we aren't a red. Yeah, New York isn't a blue state. Let's use New York. It is really purple if you look at it by landmass. But the issue, as I'm drawing a blank, Thomas LaDuke, shout out Thomas. Thomas LaDuke always says on his Duke Over America show, landmass doesn't vote. If you look at Michigan, people for years have called Michigan a red state rather than a purple state, despite the voting patterns showing it purple. It's definitely bluish purple now. In the 80s and 90s, you might have been able to call it reddish purple, but it's never been a red state. But if you look at Michigan, majority of the counties by a long shot are red. But again, counties don't vote. People in them vote. And it's the blue enclaves like Detroit, Saginaw, Port Huron, Lansing itself. Those larger population areas overwhelm the rest of the state and are what making it a bluish purple now. Why we have a Democrat governor, a Democrat AG, a Democrat Secretary of State, and after gerrymandering districts through Soros-backed prop initiative, they gerrymander districts. Now the Democrats, by a small margin, do control the Michigan House and the Michigan Senate. So we are definitely more blue than red, despite that map, because people vote, land does not. And why I have said for decades, we've done the math, we've looked at the data. Wayne County, where Detroit is never going to be a red county. You're never going to win Wayne County. But to win statewide races, you must get 29.5% of the vote. Trump got 29.2, something like that, in 2016, and barely won the state by 10,000 votes in 2016. Of course, lost in 2020. I'm not going to get into the whole Detroit Coble Hall putting up the pizza boxes, preventing people from looking at the vote count, and ballots showing up in the middle of the night by plain unmarked white van and all that. Read my friend Pat Colbeck's book, The 2020 Coup, for all that stuff. I'm not going to get into that here. But 2016, Trump won by 10,000 votes. Michigan just barely scraped by again. And he was under that 29.5 magic Wayne County vote. Now, other counties like Oakland and Macomb and others, of course, have their magic number. We may not have to win by, but we can't lose by a big margin. We must get that X percent of votes. But now, again, back to New York. There are a lot of red counties in New York, too, but we call it a blue state because of the blue cities and blue counties. So that's an aside, indeed, from the National Guard deployment thing, but an important point that I think needed to be made and brought on in part because of the National Guard thing in Texas. The Dallas mayor switching parties brings that point. Dallas, a blue city in what we call a red state. No, really, Texas isn't a red state. It is majority red, but these blue enclaves in Texas, part of the reason why the left wants illegal flow into Texas to expand Dallas, to expand Houston, other blue enclaves in Texas, to turn it purple. Now, we think of Texas as a red state, and yes, Republicans control the Texas legislature, but the Texas House leader is really a rhino. And he's a rhino because there are a lot of Democrats, and this is where you have to be more involved in spring in the primaries to get real Republicans elected. There are a lot of Democrats that ran in districts for the Texas House and Texas Senate because they knew they couldn't get elected as Democrats. They run and win the Republican primary and go on to easy election in November, and people think they've got a Republican representative when they really don't. So Texas, in a lot of senses, is a purple state because Democrats have a lot of power in the Texas legislature, despite, if you look at the map, if you look at the supposed numbers, the jerseys, rather than, right, looking at the red jersey, rather than the content of the character of the legislator, you think it's a solid red state. It's not. The Democrats have a lot of power in that Texas legislature. And by example, the Attorney General Paxton impeachment ordeal. If it was really a solid red state and Republicans, real Republicans, true conservatives, true ChristiTutionalist, politics-based people were in control of that Texas legislature, the Paxton impeachment would have never happened. So let me circle back, Jen Psaki, circle jerk style, circle back and close this out. Indeed, back to the tale of 2 National Guard deployments. It doesn't become any more clear. Texas wants to use the Guard to uphold law. New York, the Democrats want to just put the Guard as a pretend show, a dog and pony show into the subway, not to arrest criminals, but to harass law-abiding citizens as a show of force, despite the fact that they claim crime is down. If the crime were down, you wouldn't need to deploy the National Guard. I mean, their idiocy in hypocrisy and stupidity is just laid bare. And of course, as part of the show notes, I will have, if you go to Buzzsprout where the show is housed, look at the transcript at Buzzsprout for this episode, you will see related items, 2 of which should be a duh moment for the left, but won't be. And the left's strained credulity on crime, 2 articles I wrote for the Liberty Beacon that indeed relate to this show. Idiots on the left still aren't going to wake up, but you independents, as I call them, those are the ones we need to wake up to this. It's time to pick a side. This independent stuff about, how you're far superior and above it all. And sometimes you'll pick a Fascicrat. Really, if you're an independent, you're a useful idiot for the Democrats, if you're still unwilling to vote for them. The days of JFK are long gone. If you don't get that the left is destroying this country and not yet willing to become a Republican to protect and restore the American Republic, not the mobocracy, not the ineptocracy, not the kleptocracy that the left keeps creating and expanding, but to restore our American Republic. Hence, Republican. It's right there in the name, Republic. The platform is about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Now, yes, not all Republicans are good. Cinos and rhinos. You hear me talking about that all the time. But if more independents would get off their ass, more libertarians who pretend to be for smaller government would get involved, like Rand Paul, who runs as a Republican, his father before him, Justin Amash here in Michigan, who we had to dump because of his Chinese ties, but he claimed to be a libertarian, ran as a Republican, right? There are others who are considered libertarians, but no, the Libertarian Party doesn't amount to and will never amount to anything. But if you all and the independents finally picked a side and became Republican delegates, we would not have rhinos and cinos in control of certain states and areas, and we would not have as many cinos and rhinos in Congress if you would get off your butt and be a delegate to the GOP and be involved in spring primaries so we get a better candidate for the fall. It's not the party's fault. It's not a uniparty. The party is what we, the people that get off our butts, make it. It can only be what it is if we continue to allow it to be that, rhino controlled. If we all finally stood up and were really involved as delegates, there would be no rhinos and cinos in Congress. It's up to us. That's part of what this show is about, being involved and ensuring our values, our principles are represented. And I'm sorry, the only way that's going to happen is to be part of the GOP, being a delegate, being involved, going to the meetings, standing up for true ChristiTutionalist politics candidates. And I'm saying this after a few weeks ago, I dropped a PSA episode saying I wasn't going to endorse anybody, but yeah, here I am now, indeed, reversing myself. I am allowed to change my mind and being partisan that I said I wouldn't be. But the facts are the facts. The left, the Fascicrats party has gone more and more left, coddling criminals, coddling illegals, coddling terrorists over Israel. The left sides with anyone and everything anti-American. And the right, Republicans, are trying to preserve the republic. Not always great at it, but as a meme says, that I can't show it. I don't know who I can accredit it to, who made it, so I can't show it for copyright reasons to you on behind the scenes video. But it says, vote Republican. We may not be perfect, but we're not crazy like the other side. And if you don't see the difference just from this show, the tale of the two National Guard deployments, New York, Texas, dichotomy, example, you're never going to wake up. You're never going to reach those people, but there are people who you can reach. So please share this episode with them. If they aren't going to wake up now, America is doomed. They're never going to wake up. This may be our last chance. I know over and over every election gets said, this is the most important election ever. Well, as the left keeps moving further and further left and being more destructive to America, each election does seem to become far more important than the last. And it's taken decades to get here. I'm sorry, Trump cannot do it alone. He's not a magician. He can't wave a magic wand. executive orders can only go so far. We must vote red up and down the whole ticket so that he has real ChristiTutionalists in the House as allies and control there, as well as taking over the Senate and getting someone other than a rhino like McConnell. No, I don't want Cornyn or Thune. We need a real ChristiTutionalist as majority leader in the Senate if we're able to take control of the Senate. And that still isn't a be-all, end-all fix, because we're not likely to have a supermajority, filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. So it will take decades to undo what the left has done. It isn't going to happen overnight. No one can wave a magic wand, which is why Trump's VP pick is very important, so that hopefully they become president for 8 years, 2 more election cycles. After Trump's second term, he can only serve 1 more term. It's 2 terms, not 2 consecutive. At any rate, there's that crutch. I say that again on purpose, poking fun at myself. At any rate, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you spending time with me. As always, take care and God bless.
Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, no fancy high production intro or inserts, at least yet, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help to grow the show.